recording here. It's already 3 after 4 o'clock. Unfortunately, Nathan Peterson has not chimed in, so he's our Farm Services Agency out of Beltrami County. He's their director. He's in charge of this emergency forest restoration program. I know it supposedly went live this past week, but I've never got any confirmation. So what we're going to do is let Tyler and TNT Timber go first, and then hopefully maybe Nathan will get on board here. And if that doesn't happen, we'll just go straight into questions and answers. Excuse me. And this is Brian Huberty. I'm the Minnesota Forest Association president, getting over a week-long cold, so bear with me. We're virtual, but we're based out of the Grand Rapids area. And we're getting help from the DNR. Lori Barrows on. She's your private forest manager, private forest management forester out of Bemidji. She's also on the panelist call. And we may have others chiming in like Dave Rourke. He's our past president. And just to let everybody know, we have about 23 people signed on. So a couple foresters that I know are on. And a couple people signed in twice, Dave Close and Blake Pratt. I don't know why that is. But it doesn't matter. Anyways, I'm going to do some quick introductions here as I'll let Tyler get going on what they do, and which is sort of unique. There are a lot of loggers across Minnesota that just go and harvest timber, but Tyler and his brother Tucker actively do forest management projects, whether it's prescribed burning, mulching, tree planting, you name it. So I'm just going to let Tyler explain where he's at and what they do. And as you may have heard, if you got on early, we're talking about bureaucracy and NRCS with some of their programs, and he gets to fill out some of that paperwork. It's not trivial. It's not easy when you do these cost shares programs. So with that, Tyler, do you want to take it away? And your co-host, so you can share your screen if you got anything to present, or I can just stop sharing on this screen here and we'll proceed from there.
Yeah, I don't have too much to share as far as visuals for anybody, but yeah, just to give you an idea what we do and what some landowners that are listening might be interested in, or foresters that are trying to help landowners through the process. Obviously, in the Bemidji area, many folks have experienced some of the blowdown issues with the storms. In St. Louis, Cook, and Lake counties, where we work a lot, we're dealing with spruce budworm. But in addition to those areas that have been impacted by spruce budworm, where we get a lot of dead trees, we're starting to see lots of areas that are blown down as well. Dead trees are just tipping over, and occasional storms that roll through. We're getting small, isolated blowdown areas now because these balsam trees have been dead for so long. But yeah, a lot of landowners and folks are obviously looking for help. Any project, for a typical landowner over 3 acres gets to be a pretty big challenge, and is understandable, especially when you have trees that are snarled up and in a mess. So what we try and do is help folks through that process, looking in their reforestation efforts and just trying to do positive steps for their land mainly. But a lot of times we come in after, there has been a management plan put in, or a logging operation that's been done on some of the larger projects. So folks that are like replanting trees, or maybe are already in the process of planting and are brush releasing, bud capping, those protection type things. But yeah, a lot of landowners don't realize that just the abundance of projects available, funding available, certainly resources within the forestry community, foresters, stewardship plan writers, all that stuff. So we try to connect people as best we can, and if we can help them, that's great too. But yeah, we were interested in being a part of the conversation today. I don't want to ramble on too long. I could talk all day. So, but mainly when it comes to Bemidji, we don't work out that way a ton. But if folks are, we know some contractors in that area. If folks are ever looking for more information, we're certainly here to help with that. And certainly to work with the blowdown stuff. One thing we do specifically that most landowners we work for enjoy is we don't use a lot of heavy equipment, hardly ever, unless we're renting something for a specific job. So a lot of jobs for some of our blowdown cleanup, we'll just get stuff down, lop it, and scatter it. So either landowners can handle it. Some people have their own equipment, skid steers and whatever. But yeah, cutting some of that snarled up blowdown stuff can be tricky. So that's something we try to do for folks. Yeah, happy to talk about that. I'm not. Is there anything else, Brian, you want me to like touch on quick?
Yeah, Tyler, how did you get into this?
Yeah, so my brother Tucker, who's not here today, he actually started school in Bemidji in, gosh, what year was it now? 2015, maybe 14. Did 1 year there and then moved the following year to Ely to go to Vermilion College.
Mm-hmm.
And he got in was going to be a forester, was hoping to do something like that. I knew very little, if nothing at all, about forestry in Minnesota at the time at all. I was on a much different path, but I was living in Duluth, and oddly enough, we both ended up together cutting spruce tops for an outfit that does it, all over in the region, and worked together and talked about the woods a lot. And I really got interested in it. I knew he was doing it, and yeah, it just kind of took off. We started in 2017, so this is our 10th year, and yeah, it's been fun. We just keep meeting foresters every year and working with lots of different landowners. We do contracts directly with county offices in the state and stuff as well. Not as much anymore, just because we started working with so many private landowners and because of the projects that they're being funded. But yeah, that's how we started doing most of our work was contracting directly with the counties and states for work that is specific for handwork, which is mostly what we do. So yeah, running chainsaw and doing stuff with low impact and a little more. Somebody called us like a boutique forestry outfit one time. I don't know if that totally fits us, but just a little lighter as far as the treatment. But yeah, we've always enjoyed it, and our bodies are feeling it now after 10 years. But yeah, we just keep doing it. So that's
Have
why
you
we're
thought
here.
about getting into horse logging?
Yes, that's something. I mean, we've looked into so many different fun options, and yeah, it's something we're going to probably expand to in the future. Maybe doing some more just variety of harvesting some of the wood. But as we'll talk about today, I'm sure with the blowdown, you were just telling me that a lot of that we lose a lot of that value when stuff blows down like that. So yeah, trying to harvest trees, and especially in the balsam areas that we work in, all those trees are dead, and there's just not a lot of material use for them, unfortunately. So yeah, a lot of times we're either burning, chipping, or just leaving it, scattering it, and chopping it up. So because yeah, there's not really much else you can do with it. I've certainly talked about milling it or splitting it, and it's just a lot of it's just junk. At least where we're at, maybe not so much over in Itasca County. But yeah, some of the stuff over here is just with the balsam. It's just there's no value to it anymore.
Out of curiosity, in terms of chainsaws, are you still using gasoline powered or using an electric battery?
We use all gasoline power. Yeah, it's mainly
For the
for just the amount of times we cut. I mean, we'll run 8 to 10 cycles in a day, and so yeah, I need like 35 batteries probably. So the battery ones are nice for anyone that's doing like trail clearing though, or like around your home. If you're just not using a chainsaw very often, they're certainly lighter. You don't have to deal with the exhaust. I wish they were more efficient. I would probably use one, but yeah, they're just not quite efficient enough for as much as we use them.
No, I understand. I'm just curious. It's just interesting watching even that technology change here within the last year or two.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you could percentage-wise, in terms of thinning or mulching, how would you categorize the majority of your projects that you're doing?
So the majority of what we do since day one, year to years, is fire mitigation work and thinning. We're generally taking 60 to 70% of the trees in that stand per acre, sometimes more if it's all balsam or it's all been blown down. if it's a real mess. But in general, that's about, maybe 50 to 70%. Just it's so depending on the site. But I'd say we do, 70% of our work is fuel mitigation work every year, balsam clearing. We do probably another 20% of invasive treatment, mainly buckthorn, but anything. We've cut and sprayed a variety of stuff. So we'll do like herbicide treatments and stump treatments for certain invasives. But yeah, typically buckthorn for that. And then we do 10%, 5% or so of tree planting, and we also do hazard tree cleanup as well, which is probably another 5-10%. So boulevard trees, most everywhere in Minnesota has been impacted by emerald ash borer. So trees on hazard stuff, stuff like that. We'll do some of that every year as well. But still, the majority of us in St. Louis, Lake, and Cook counties, the biggest need has been for balsam clearing, especially in rural communities. We try to work close to home. Obviously, that'd be great if we could have every job within 10 minutes of home. But we service a lot of people, an hour and a half, hour away, just out into that kind of no man's land of Isabella, Finland, north of Two Harbors, all those kind of rural areas in those counties anyways. So
Yep.
But we go pretty much everywhere. We've worked down in Pine County, and we've been in Itasca County before for sure, and Aiken County, stuff like that. So, but yeah, bulk of the work still fire mitigation for us, just because the need is so high, and I'd say the education for landowners has picked up. So there's just a lot more people aware of the situation and trying to do what they can. So,
Lori Barrow, if you can unmute yourself just quickly, I have a curious question. Is there similar kind of people, resources, contractors in your area of Bemidji that does work like what Tyler does?
And we're always looking to get more names. It's kind of ironic. I was just on the phone with my colleague who's on this call, Dan Wiley, and as EFRP funds are being released, the enrollment period was open last week. We're trying to work through who can get this work done. So we're compiling a list. So it's really helpful, Tyler, to hear what you guys do, because that's going to be one of the biggest issues moving forward, is just finding people to do the amount of work that needs to get done in this area.
Yeah, and for those on the call here, just the backdrop that's behind Lori is one of the blowdown areas right off of Highway 71 by the power station there, and it's right off an exit, and that gives you an idea or the flavor for the amount of work, good 30, 40, 50 miles out from Bemidji from the blowdown. So it's substantial. And I know, and from our past presentations, the fire concern is very high just because now all this fuel's on the ground, and it will dry up. The question is how to mitigate that going into the future. So if something does take off, it doesn't take off and wipe out a town or two. Thanks, Lori. I'm trying to think of other questions for Tyler. Out of curiosity, what's been your most interesting project or largest project that you've worked on? Oh, you're muted there, Tyler.
Sorry about that.
That's right.
I think our biggest, is around, 40-acre plots for most landowners. We've worked on landowners with much more land, but, the projects have been to smaller scale, as far as what's on their property. But, when we're doing everything by hand, most of our projects don't exceed 10 acres, mainly not because we can't do them. We certainly do, and we've done plenty of those over the years. But it really comes down to cost for most landowners. I would say, in general, most landowners are willing to spend on I guess what they would consider a reasonable home project in that $5,000 to $10,000 range. And I think as far as like Firewise projects that we do, we can get a lot done that way. And a lot of contractors can as well. So that's one thing I was going to encourage anyone that's listening. We work in Bemidji, around the Duluth, Saginaw, Arrowhead region. But if you have a contractor that you're interested in working with, or you worked with in the past, certainly talk to them about, if you have a budget in mind and you're trying to put a plan together to get as much stuff down as you can. Most people are pretty willing to work with you and come up with a plan that's going to fit your needs. The biggest thing you can do is, your fire defense, especially in blowdown areas, which we help a lot of people with, is just trying to create at least a couple of acres of pretty good clearing and defensible space around you. That's just really going to help you a lot. But yeah, minimizing as much haul off and heavy equipment as you can. If you're worried about cost, that's going to help you. But yeah, it all depends on what people really want to see done. The more stuff you want to move around and haul off and dispose of, it's generally going to cost more. So, but you can do a lot with a good budget and a good contractor. I think a lot of people feel overwhelmed right away, especially with blowdown, and they know it's going to look pretty barren in some areas. But if you can get things started, that's the best thing. We always try and just get people going on it. Once they see things cleared up, they feel a lot better about it. So, how I haven't been over. I mean, I've seen some images of the blowdown in Bemidji. What would you say, like, is the general size of some of the stuff that's down, or is it just so variable in certain areas? There's a lot of like dominant poplar that blew over, or is it just kind of varies?
Everything came down.
Go ahead, Lori, tell them.
So it's substantial. Whole mature red pine stands completely snapped over. Mature aspen went down. It's the swath and extent is quite extensive, and there's unmerchantable bent over young aspen that's bent over, and there's no value in it, but how do we get it to regenerate? And then there's very nice, healthy, large Norway pine that went over that was merchantable, but what do you do with the stuff that wasn't? So all across the gamut, it's been a wild ride. But real quick, Tyler, while you're on, we have some folks in the chat, and I don't think that you would go this far for work, would you?
Oh, we'll go anywhere, it don't matter.
Okay. Good to
Yeah,
know.
someone's motivated and they want to. Oh, is this Wayne here? Tyler, I see on the chat here your question. Logger get logs out, have a lot rest, clean up. Is that what you wanted me to read there, Lori? This thing you prescribe for?
Yeah, go for it. Oh yeah, Dave's got a question for you. How do you price your jobs? And then Wayne's got one on 16 acres in Cass Lake.
Okay. Yeah, of course. I can definitely reach out and talk to you for sure. Yeah, if you've had a plan going in, one thing I was going to mention too. So we've rented a forestry mulchers before, and it sounds like some of these areas for blowdown wise, those are great options. We don't have one, but there are people on, and we do know people in that area that do run mulchers too. And one thing just to keep in mind that we always tell people, it looks like Wayne here had a logging operation. We definitely want to help people with additional cleanups and further planting stuff after that. Because having both and like a long-term plan is really great. And that goes back to the funding stuff too. If you start clearing 5 acres or more, there's a lot of funding out there that'll help not only acquire tree seedlings, but help pay for some of the labor and the caging and stuff like that. So you can kind of get a lot of stuff accomplished in once. Are those part of the emergency contracts in any way? Do they have reforestation as part of that plan, or is it just for the cleanup stuff?
They have tree establishment.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yep.
Could you explain a little bit how those work? I guess just for my own information, or any landowners that are listening, as far as, because you guys were saying the application for those comes out real soon. Is that correct? And
yeah. So Brian, do you want me to I have a one pager for folks real quick that I can share what I know about EFRP?
Well, Lori, speak of the devil, guess who just got on?
Oh, yay.
Nathan Peterson. Perfect timing. Can you hear us okay, Nathan? I can't hear you, Nathan, by the way. He may be having an audio issue. Nathan Peterson's our USDA Farm Service Agency Director out of Beltrami County, and right now he's trying to figure out the why the audio is not coming through. Go ahead, give us a check 1, 2, 3 or something there, Nathan, if you can hear us. Are you okay there, Nathan? He's still checking on it. But he's gonna, if another thing to do, Nathan, is just reboot and try logging in again. If that helps. Sometimes it works. And it shows that you're unmuted, so you should be coming through. Try unplugging your headset.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, there you go.
All right.
Perfect. You're coming through.
Sorry, I got tied up with a producer, and the next thing I know, it was 3:45, and now it's 4:25. So
no, you're okay. We fully understand. No, Tyler went ahead of you. Just talked about what they do for practices and so forth in management. Now you get to explain the bureaucracy of the emergency forest restoration program. So we may be here a while. That's okay. By the way, Nathan, you're the Farm Service Agency Director for both Beltrami, Clearwater, and which third county?
East Polk. So,
East Polk,
yep.
Thank you.
Yep. So yes, I sincerely apologize for being late, not intended. So, yeah, did you guys need to finish up something else or roll with what I?
No, your timing was perfect. Why don't you go ahead and I made you a co-host if you want to present anything. I do have your tabs up for your contact information and the EFRP. If you want me to show it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll see if I can share my screen here. Like I said, I know I don't know what was going on with the headset. Everything was showing that it was fine, and yet obviously I couldn't hear you guys at all. So we'll get rolling with this here.
There you go. Your screen's coming up.
So if you guys were on the other webinar, some of this is going to be a repeat. Figured it was probably a fairly new audience. And since the last webinar, we have started sign up for our emergency forest restoration program began on February 2nd and runs through June 5th. So we're right in the heart of it. Opened up a couple weeks ago. Had a lot of inquiries today, so we've been rolling with it today. So we actually took more inquiries, I think, in 4 hours today than we did all last week. So it's been heavy interest today. So start over. My name is Nathan Peterson with the Farm Service Agency, talking about our emergency forest restoration program. So what is the program? It's a reimbursement cost share program limited to 75% of the actual cost or allowable cost per component. And again, we're likely probably going to be limited to 75% of allowable cost, especially on smaller acreage. Just to give you guys some idea, I know some costs have gotten pretty high. In order to clear this, we do have some not to exceed rates. So if we go above those not to exceed rates, we won't quite get to 75% cost share. Sometimes we might even be 30, 40, 50% cost share. Likewise, if it's below those not to exceed rates, we will be at that 75% cost share. So what does it cover? That's the big thing. It's got to be non-industrial private forest land. And that's the biggest thing. Is there a real good definition to non-industrial private forest lands? To be blunt, no, not really. Some of it's going to be a judgment call, but it does mean rural forest lands with existing tree cover or which are suitable for growing trees that are owned by private non-industrial forest landowners or long-term leasees. Long-term leasee is 10 years or more. And it must be forest land being restored to forest land. That's the big thing. Has to be determined forest land. Your goals in the end of this have to be going back to forest land. It can't be to turn it into housing development or into ag land for grazing purposes or any of that. So forest to forest. It has to be at least an acre in size, and there has to be at least $1,000 out of pocket expense in order to be eligible. Kind of the two big criteria. Kind of talked a lot about this last time. It is important that it is a reimbursement program. It's not a grant program. So you do have to have an out-of-pocket expense, pay for that, then get reimbursed from FSA on that. One of the big questions, again, with the non-industrial private forest land is, we have 10 people and it's all made up of 6-7 acres alone. Maybe 6-7 acres isn't, or maybe 3 acres isn't considered forest land, but if it's all together within a contiguous makes up 30 or 40 acres, then maybe it is. And some of those decisions, to be blunt, are going to be made on a case by case basis. Is my 3-4 acres butted up next to county forest, a state forest, national forest, or another larger chunk, or is my 3-4 acres separate? Well, that might not be considered rural. That might be considered urban. All of those cases are going to have to kind of be looked at. So I wish I had a hard, concrete answer of what non-industrial private forest lands are. We're going to rely a little bit on our technical experts, probably DNR, who is helping us write these plans, get into that a little bit to help make those determinations. But it's not a program designed for town lots. But again, there could be exceptions where I own small acreage, but it is contiguous. It could be considered forest. So I'd say, come in and inquire. We'll tease that apart during the sign-up process. How do I get started? Well, like I said, sign-up started already. We're running it through June 5th, so we do have some time, which is great. We're really asking people to email our FSA offices with some information. And I have the email addresses here that we're kind of asking for. Like I said, covered Bagley and or Clearwater and Beltrami counties. We're asking stuff to be sent to our Bagley user group, so we'll get those out. And what we're asking emailed is a 2047 that gets you into our system. Most of the people that will be applying, it's probably the first time that you've ever worked with FSA. We recognize that. We need to get you into our system, and we need to get your farm, what we call tracted. And I should, again, used to dealing with farmers. It's not necessarily a farm. Your land tracted into our system, drawn. We're not hooked up to the county courthouse system, so we have to put it into our system, get your boundary of your land that you own drawn in. So we are asking for a copy of your deed if it's the first time that you come into the FSA office, meaning you haven't already had records established with us. And just a few sentences of describing the damage, what took place, the type of tree covers you have, hardwood, softwood, mixed stuff. Most of the stuff, it seems like, have been mixed. Although we do have some pine plantations, those are softwoods, very minimal solid hardwoods, but have some. And then we do have the number of acres needing restoration. I own 80, but maybe I'm only looking at doing a 40 of that for restoration. That's helpful to know so we don't plan you for 80 acres. Again, once we get that information, FSA will build a farm and a track. Again, county talks in parcels, we talk in farm and track. And we do have to get that, what we call, replicated back to 2025. Since this did take place in 2025, we're already into 2026. So we do need some state office intervention there, which is part of the reason why the first trip, we're probably not going to be able to take you start to finish to the point where you walk in, we could get you in our system, we can get the farm built, and we can get an application. It is going to be kind of a multi-step, which is why emailing, getting the deed and that 2047 early is helpful, because then we can build the farm, we can get it replicated back from our state office and be ready to do the application when we're ready and when we come in. So once we do that, we'll reach out to you, let you know we got the farm built. Now start working on the application. It's nice to know your goals. This is really, it's an application of what you want to do with the land. Is it just clear the downed trees? That's been some of the interest. Some of the interest is well, I'd like to clear it and clean it up a little bit because it's a fire hazard right now. Could involve chipping, mulching, some of those. There's different items. Is it kind of, I'll call it the works? Is it, I'd like to clear trees. I'd like to get it cleaned up, do some site prep out there, and I want to replant the area too. We can schedule all that, but it's good to know up front the application. Just because we schedule you with all three of these, it can change and it likely will change. It's kind of an estimation of what you would like to do, and then the planning portion with DNR or technical experts will come into place to determine what is needed for the land. So once these goals are obtained, we'll complete the application. It's on an 848 cost share application. And again, it's just an application at this point. It can be revised. So I decided I'd really like to do the works. I want to do land clearing, site prep, and tree planting. I decided, you know what, just clearing it is good enough. With conversations with DNR, natural re-veg will probably happen. It'll be all right. That's fine. It's an application. Likewise, if I decide that I only want land clearing and through that, technical portion, I decide, you know what, I'd like to replant at least a few acres of it, give it a little bit of a head start. We can still add that to that point. That application will be referred to DNR. DNR will reach out to do a site assessment, determine what's needed for the property, and will complete a plan. And that application will be finalized with acres and a list of items that will be completed once the plan is received back from DNR. So we'll get that back. We'll complete what we call an 848A, and that the applicant will need to sign. And that kind of locks you in. That's we've gotten your goals on the 848. We've sent it over to DNR. DNR's worked with you. We've got a good plan. It's come back to FSA. FSA's put in, okay, this is what we're going to do. You sign to that. Now you have 2 years to complete the work on that application, and then keep receipts and provide the receipts to FSA. So, and that's the point where the reimbursement will happen at, again, the cost share rate's hopefully 75%. But again, if you go over that, not to exceed, it'll be a little less than that. So that is kind of the long and the short of the whole process. It's not all that bad. But it goes fairly smoothly so far. I do have, if I can find it quick, I got a whole bunch of stuff open. This is a little bit nicer. Drag this over. So just as a visual, I know it's all repeat, but just kind of as a visual, what happens. Again, come into the FSA office first time. Again, we're asking you to email that. The customer service sheet, get you into the farm records, get a deed, build that farm. Then we'll work with you to do what your planning is, your plan, your intentions, your 848, get you to sign that. We'll refer that over to DNR. DNR will reach out, do an on-site inspection, refer that back to FSA. FSA, there is a environmental assessment requirement to this. That's the point where we'll determine how big of assessment. We do have some waivers, but that's all internal to us. And then that's a point where we can generate that. We're locking it down. This is what we've decided. This is the 848A. This is what you have been approved for. We'll send that out to you in writing that says you have now been approved. You have 2 years. Bring in your receipts at the end, and then we'll issue the cost share from there. So just, again, kind of a nice little flow chart for it. So.
And Nathan, I'm guessing this, knowing the federal bureaucracy, this flow chart's not up on your website, correct?
No, it isn't. No.
Would you like us to put it up on our website, the Blowdown page we have, and email it over and I'll put it up? We'll have it up.
I'll make sure, absolutely. I made sure I could share it today with our state office. I'll make sure that we can post it. But yeah, I don't see any problem with that. But yeah.
And your steps and so forth, we can get anything that you're allowed to do. We'll get it posted, and I'll show people where this website is after we get done here.
Perfect. So yeah, it's not terrible. It really is. There is a few forms, but realistically,
Is it worse than a 1040? Sorry, but that's how people can relate.
Way easier, way easier. So, yep. And we do have Brandy and myself work with Brandy Coulter is the one that works with it extensively here in Bemidji, but we do have people that you probably either work with me, myself, Brandy, or Tina Procott, or even Darcy Kaiser. So there's a few of us that all handle it. So,
well, I still want to know how you guys were able to avoid requiring everybody to get a unique entity identifier.
We attach everything to social security numbers. So once we get the social, that is what we use for all of our payments and payment limitation stuff. So yeah, we don't have to go through that, which is awfully nice. So
yeah, that's a nightmare. I went through that.
well, but so the one myth that I have heard is, or a question that we're getting a lot is, I've already started. Does that mean that I am ineligible? Potentially. I shared on the last webinar, we did get some waivers from the national office. If it's under 100 acres, there's a whole bunch of specific stuff that just because you started doesn't mean you're ineligible. However, there are certain things, if stumps have already been removed, if the slash piles have already been piled up and burned, that is above and beyond our waiver. So again, inquire, tell us what you've done, what you haven't, but just the removal of downed trees, hazardous trees, does not preclude you from applying for this program and being eligible for the cost share, even if the work was done months ago. And so
let me run through some of the questions that have come in just so you can whip through these. This is from John Pratt. With custom forestry, are landowners required to not start any work? And you just addressed that prior to speaking with you. And they can, do work, but the earlier the better, right?
Yep. Yep. It is absolutely best if you can wait until you're approved, just because if you don't, it has to fit that waiver exactly. And so if you can wait, great. If it's already started, inquire at least. We can see if it fits that waiver.
Yeah, Wayne's going to give you a call tomorrow, so heads up.
Okay.
For Michelle Walker, does FSA have a maximum amount per acre that they'll reimburse?
Yes, so we do. Our cost share rates, and this gets tricky because it's by component code. So, I mean, realistically, the tree cleanup has a specific not to exceed rate, the site prep, and it depends on whether it's, light stuff, medium stuff, heavy stuff. The site prep has its own component code. The tree planting has its own component code. So it's really hard for me to give numbers without knowing, well, are we talking heavy logging equipment? Are we talking, you're going in with a bobcat and grapple and doing, light stuff. So yes, we do have those rates. It is by what we call component code. I'm going to steer clear from giving those out just because if I say a number, your work might not fall into that category. So until we go through and we identify your exact component codes and the dollars associated with that, but all of our component rates are per acre. So,
okay. If you want, Wayne, I can share. First of all, I can share what the EFRP program website looks like. That looks like that. It's pretty generic. There's just some reference information. The best way to find it is just Google USDA, FSA, EFRP, and it'll pop up immediately. And then, more importantly, somebody asked for your contact information, and I do have that up. So there you go. I don't know how readable this thing is. It's sort of small font on the website. Is it readable on your end?
Yeah. It's small, but there we go. Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
And Tyler had a question. Well, I'll leave this up for now. I have a map of the storm damage that was done by the Forest Service. It's sort of a crude map, and I'll explain what that is. And maybe that's the next seminar. The DNR, I don't know where they're at on this, but they're making maps of a more accurate map of the blowdown area through photography they took later this summer. Let's see here. Questions. I know we probably have a couple more. I know some people had raised their hand. Jennifer Teagarden had well, she took it down, so maybe your question was answered. Tyler, Wayne's going to give you a call tomorrow too. So Wayne's obviously has probably been impacted quite a bit there. Other questions, feel free to answer or ask them in the question. If you want me to raise your hand, and I'll unmute you and you can ask your questions directly. That's another option.
Do you mind if I ask Nate a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Myself.
Yep, go ahead.
Cool. Say, just for the landowners that are listening and to prepare themselves, and you understand certainly from our perspective as a contractor, you know, the cost per acre can be widely, like you said, depending on what you have and what your ultimate goals are. I guess one thing that we always encourage, especially when it comes to the cost share and they go into those projects, is also understanding the scale of the project and how much they're willing to cover that 75%. You know, the bigger the project, the more that 25% of coverage gets bigger, you know, and just being aware as a landowner or as a contractor that's trying to help somebody that, you know, they are going to have to spend money out of pocket. These programs are here to help them, and they can put a plan in place that can fit their budget and their goals. But being aware of what those costs might be, and like you said, and knowing what those do not exceed marks are, is just really helpful so that landowners don't get overwhelmed at the very end after they've already come through that process. We've just seen that be a hurdle that people aren't aware of until they call someone out to come help. But yeah, something to keep in mind if folks are applying for any project, you know, figure out what your personal budget is and what do you want to spend. And, you know, guys like Nate and other foresters are definitely interested in giving you any information they can and giving you the best plan because, yeah, you can certainly tailor something to yourself. I don't think that's a question for Nate anymore, but do you know what I'm trying to say, Nate, about like, yeah, just kind of, do you have those conversations with landowners about what is your budget and how that might affect what their goals are?
So we don't specifically, and it's a good spin-off and a great point. So when you guys come in and we do the 848 and we identify your goals, it is going to have those cost share rates on there. And that is something that you can have a copy, you can take home, and it will show your not to exceed rate. So let's just say that is, you know, $50,000. Let's just throw that out. And you find out that the project cost that you have in mind is going to cost you $100,000. Again, we're not going to be at 75%. That 848 that we printed is the 75% not to exceed. And then it's a great point of, okay, my personal budget doesn't have 50,000 out of pocket expenses. So what can we do? You know, and that's the point where it's still fluid between the point where we do the 848 application and working with DNR over here to get your goals and your opportunities of whatever you want to do. So it is fluid. You do get a copy of those not to exceed rates. You can take a look at that. That is something that, you know, when you go to hire those private contractors of, boy, that's way more expensive than I thought, or likewise that it comes in way under. And if it comes in way under, if you're 848, again, less 50,000 and it's only going to cost you 20,000, we are going to be at 75% of the 20,000. 75% out of pocket, not to exceed those rates. So planning, hopefully that makes the planning purposes easy, that when you apply, you come away with a piece of paper that says this is the max and I'm going to get reimbursed.
Thanks, Nathan. And does that answer your question, Tyler?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Perfect.
That, like I said, another just good point. I think it's just nobody likes to talk about cost and money, but it's just an important part of it, and something we try to help landowners with, of just, yeah, figuring out what their expectations are, because you can do a lot with what your goals are still. And most that we see is, the biggest is the initial project that you're first doing, is all that removal of the blowdown areas that are really dense. Those get to be pretty labor intensive, but like you mentioned, involving some other projects like planting the replanting might not be as much overhead, and you can get a lot out of that. So yeah, no, I think it's good to have those talks with people, and then they can almost set their plan and expectations at once they get more of that information. So
Very good. The two people that have their hands raised, one is Jennifer Teagarden, and you're going to have to unmute yourself if you still have your question. And yep, go ahead, Jennifer. Nope, she just unraised it. So maybe she doesn't have a question. Now, Wayne, if you still have your questions, I'm going to allow you to talk, but you did answer some of your questions. You posted some of your questions in the chat. If you have some other questions, feel free to talk. Otherwise, go ahead.
So my property is up on Williams Road, right on Cass Lake. And it came in over by Wishbone Resort. And it basically leveled, close to 50 acres is what I think the logger took off. And so I wanted to get all them trees out of there because they were laying on the road, they were laying on the crossroads, they were laying everywhere. And it was just a huge fire, just waiting for a huge fire at some point. And the wood would have been worth nothing because most of it was popple. There was a lot of big pine in there. But the pine had been stressed so much that they said they couldn't even use it for boards. When they cut it, would snap right open. Mm-hmm. And so I had them go through and take all my acreage, and my neighbors took a bunch of acreage. And now we're at the point that I got to figure out how to clean it up. And I've read on the websites about prescribed burns, that's probably a good way of doing it. And the logger said that's pretty common. To regenerate the pine cones and clean up some of the small sticks. There's still a lot of debris on the ground. I don't know how much of that would burn in a prescribed burn, but I guess that's kind of where I'd like to learn more about. When you say prescribed burn on your website, and when I read about it, what does that actually do as far as cleaning it up? All the stumps are still in place, so I would assume a little bit I was listening here that I'd still be available for possibly cross sharing. And then once that's all done, I want to turn it back into forest. Mm-hmm. I want to, I'll never see the big pines again, but there's a few of them left, but not many. I would guess I lost 100 of them. There was 5 in my yard. I lost, every one of them went. So everything in my yard, I lost. On the other side of the road, I lost everything in there too.
So Wayne, when you describe the location, are you on the north end of Cass Lake or south of there?
So I'm on, let's see, you see where Wishbone is?
I have no idea.
We're not Wishbone. Okay. Star Island.
Yeah, I know Star, right here, Star Island.
Okay. Yep. Okay. See the opening to Wendigo? You go right straight.
I don't know where Wendigo Lake is. I have no idea.
Okay. It's within Star Island.
Oh, that lake.
Yep.
Right here. Gotcha.
Yep. Right there you go. Lake Wendigo. Okay. So if you go from the opening, go perfectly north right across. That's where we're at.
Oh, gotcha. On the other side of the lake, or other side of the island, right up here.
Nope. Down farther behind Lost Lake, right there, right where Lost Lake is at.
Right here.
You see Lost Lake? Okay, yep. You see that brown stuff there?
Yep.
It's all within that whole stretcher all the way out to the point.
Oh, so you're in ground zero there. You got hit hard.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, that's actually a good point, because from a prescribed fire standpoint, you have all these natural barriers, the lake.
Right. Exactly.
So now that visually helps. Obviously the houses would have to be protected, the cabins or whatever's along there. But from a prescribed fire standpoint, this is probably one of the easier areas to do. because of these.
You see, so you see where it says Williams Road?
Yep.
Everything on the south side of that road, which is the lakefront,
Yep.
is where the houses are at. There's only a couple buildings in the back.
Yep.
And then there is one other house down on Lost Lake, or a couple of them, but they're down closer to the lake.
Yeah,
And so basically it took a lot of this all the way down to the point there's everything was, not everything, but it was a lot more than we wanted to deal with.
Yeah, the other expert is Lori Barrow. She's a fire management with for the DNR. Lori, have you guys done any kind of projects like this other than non-state land, private land? I don't recall.
We do not, and unfortunately, with those areas being so heavily, there's so many buildings and structures, it likely wouldn't be an option in areas such as that. What could potentially work is getting somebody in to do additional brushing work to get it piled so that you have like controlled piles. I'm sure, Wayne, you've seen all the piles around town that folks have been burning and whatnot. So that would be more feasible, but the liability of taking on a RX burn.
That's what I kind of figured.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of figured. So where I'm at right now is a lot of the slash from the trees is piled, and I was going to let it set through the summer so it'd dry out a little bit, and then if we get a good snowfall is when I was thinking about burning it.
Yep, that's exactly correct. Just gotta keep track of the snow amount on the ground and make sure that you're doing it in a safe way. There's lots of information out there on safe burning, but definitely make sure that you have enough snow on the ground and equipment nearby if that's something that's needed too.
Yeah. So I guess that's where I need the help is someone to help me understand us and my neighbors, because it is a large area that we got hit, and try to figure out how do we turn this back into the forest.
Yeah, and I think that that's what, working with Nathan and his group to get the application started, and then it'll be assigned to a forester such as myself in the area, and one of us will go out and do a boots on the ground assessment, and that's where we'll start the conversation of first, what needs to happen, and then what do you envision for your woods and where you want to take it. So
where are you located?
I'm in Bemidji.
Oh, you're in Bemidji. Because I had a couple of foresters over the last 10 years come out and look at all the trees before this blowdown to make sure the forest was healthy and, that is anything that I needed to manage on it. And,
yeah, that's probably one of my predecessors, Wayne, but we'll,
okay.
We'll,
I kind of figured so, because I think they were from Black Duck.
Yeah, yep. So we're scattered all over, but I'm your local private lands forester for the Bemidji area. So
would you be my contact, just kind of get to come out and look at it and see what you would recommend?
So eventually, we have a number of foresters that'll be assigned. That's where you'll work with Nathan to first get that application in. Then he'll send it to a group of us that will then parse out that data so that as you might imagine, we've been pretty inundated with things.
Yeah.
So we're trying to be pretty logical about it and parse it out and assign it to different foresters so that we're not all overwhelmed.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of hesitant having a logger come in right away, not knowing. But it's when I talked to enough people, and I tried to. You guys were so busy at the time; everybody was calling you. That. But when I really sat back and thought about it, that within by spring, a lot of that wood's not going to be worth anything, and I'm going to be paying a lot more money for someone to come in and take the logs, where they come in and they took the logs and didn't charge me a penny.
Right. Right. And I think you did an excellent job there of being proactive and getting the work done. So very commendable. But now we just got to get a plan in place to get it reforested.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I'm at. So that's where I need the help. So I'll get a hold of Nathan probably tomorrow or sometime this week to try to figure out how to move this ahead. And then I'll get it. I think there's I think there was 6 or 8 neighbors that I got lined up for the logger, and he went through all their land.
Yep.
And got
all that was the very smart way to do it. Definitely a smart way to do it.
There's only one guy that wouldn't agree to it, and it's a mess back there now.
Yep.
So Wayne, I'll get a hold of Nathan.
Were you on the property when the blowdown happened?
I sure was.
Ugh.
I was sitting in the picture window. but here's the thing. I was on the lakeside, so the wind was coming from the north or from the other side of the house. So I could see things happening, but we didn't lose anything on the lakeside. really to speak of. But when I walked after the wind was down and you could tell everything had calmed down, I walked out with a flashlight and I looked out my front door, and it took me 2 days with a chainsaw and a tractor to get dug into the house so we could get the cars out. And now I can see basically 5 homes over, where before I couldn't hardly see the neighbor.
Wow.
So I not only do I have this land back here to deal with, but I got to figure out what I'm going to do with the yard. And right now, my plans is to extend my irrigation system up to where these trees were, so I can get trees planted. And I'm not going to go out there and water them every day that it doesn't rain. So I'll be able to irrigate a little bit to help them along.
Well, Brandon Bartholomew asked a great question. It's related to you, Wayne. Is, will the county tax folks be reducing values because of the blowdown?
I doubt it.
I have no idea.
They really should, because it like the 16 acres I bought back there, that property value drops precipitously.
Yeah,
that's where the value was. Everything's gone now.
Yeah, I can't answer that. I mean, that's the county tax people, and I don't want to talk to them because everything's been going up.
But realistically, it should be redropped. I haven't got to that point. I'm more worried about getting the trees reestablished. Yeah. Anyways, other questions from anybody else? We're coming up on 5 o'clock. We got time. We can go till 5:30, but if we want to cut early, we can. If you got questions, please enter it in the chat or raise your hand, and the experts here will do their best to answer your questions. Good question, by the way, Brandon. That's a good question. Okay. I'll give it the 20-second countdown. But Tyler or Nathan, any last words, comments, encouragement?
I just had one quick thing, and I was just curious with Nate. So for folks that have larger properties, like Wayne was saying, maybe 50 some acres, can they set their projects different, as the needs change for the acreage? For instance, when we do Firewise jobs for folks, we try to dispose of as much debris and stuff as we can, within that first acre or two. But sometimes to help people's costs as we get further out from their property into areas they might not be using as much, but they just want to see it cleaned up, that's when we just do more lop and scatter and maybe pile some of it in the high dense areas for burning. But can people adjust, their plans based on the different acreages and how things might be fitting throughout, or are they going to set a plan for the whole property when they show up?
No, there is definitely leeway within the program to pick and choose the acres that you want to do things on. I mean, I own 80 acres, but again, I'm only interested in cleaning up 40 of those. We can schedule 40 acres of, heavy equipment cleanup. Likewise, then we get into, the site prep and planting. Well, maybe there's only 10 acres that you want to do site prep and planting to. We can definitely pick and choose those amount of acres, or, it's all 80 acres that I'm interested in heavy cleanup, and 20 acres I'm interested in replant. That's all stuff we can tease apart, and acres that we can schedule or not schedule according to landowners' priorities.
Cool.
And any other last comments, questions from Tyler, Nathan? There are no more questions coming in on the chat, and no more hands. Well, hang on. There's one more hand raised. Or is that still Wayne? Wayne's got to lower his hand. There we go.
Oh,
I got you, Wayne.
Okay, perfect.
And thanks for getting on. It's good to hear from somebody who got to experience the storm, and we may have to follow up with you sometime in the future and sort of do lessons learned on this whole event.
Yeah. I don't know if there was any lessons other than that have a chainsaw handy and someone with some big equipment.
Oh, yeah.
But I planted over here in Warren, I planted close to 7,000 evergreens on our farm out here. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to get them established, and it's hard to get them to grow. But once they get established, they go pretty good. But out of them 7,000 trees, I probably have 1,000 left.
Oh, geez. Wow.
It's just over here, it's difficult because there's no windbreaks, and they are the windbreaks, and they get beat up pretty bad. But I did have the USDA come, or not the USDA. I had West Polk Soil Conservation. They come in and planted some with the right equipment. They did a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Them trees are doing well, and they're still alive. They're good. 20 years old now.
Good. All right. Well,
there's two good questions that just came in.
Oh,
Brian.
good. Go ahead, Lori. Thank you. Give me a second. I got to bring up the chat again. I was looking at it. For an anonymous, are reimbursements lump sum upon completion, or are progressive submittals permitted? And then that's for you, Nathan.
Yeah, typically what we see is it's by like what we call component code. So when we do go to pay a full component code, we pay that entire thing. So like the cleanup, right? So getting heavy equipment, the logging side of it, once that portion is done on the amount of acres scheduled, we can reimburse that. Then site prep, and then the tree planting. What we try to stay away from, it gets a little tricky, is trying to do halves on those component codes. But by component code, by all means, once you get done with the heavy equipment, the removal of those hazardous trees, we can pay that. Then we can go to the site prep. Then we can go to the tree planting. So great question.
Yeah, great question. Last question here from Mary. What can be done with poplar aspen leaning 45%?
So I can take this one because
Yeah,
this
Lori.
is something that we've been talking about a lot in the field. You know, if you're in the area, you see a lot of this. Fortunately, we have some great loggers in the area who were really, really proactive and are still being proactive at getting out there and getting the work done. But what do we do with this leaning timber that might not necessarily be merchantable? You know, it's sitting around, what, about 20 some odd years. My brain isn't mathing right now. So it's not necessarily merchantable to the mill. So what do we do with it? And one thing we've been toying with is, you know, still getting a logger to come in and harvest it, but it's maybe just not a usable product like we would typically think of. Another would be simply dozing it. Maybe we were talking with some loggers about getting a skid steer in and just pushing it down and snapping it. Aspen is an early successional stump sprouter, so it'll come back pretty vigorously. There's a lot of options. It just really depends on the site characteristics, how big it is. You know, we just got to get creative, unfortunately.
Thanks, Lori. Yeah, and actually trying to envision even with some of these loggers, if their logging heads can pivot that easy, you know, at 45 degrees. I know they can do it if they come at it at a right angle. It's not a problem. But with some of these bobcat feller bunchers, it could be a little more tricky. Any other last questions? Otherwise, we'll stop right here. And I want to thank you, everyone, for getting on. We do have another one scheduled for March 9th. We don't know what the agenda on that will be. We'll talk to the group, Lori and crew, and see how far they want to go. If we need to continue this, and if people find it valuable, we'll do it. My last suggestion is 11 o'clock tomorrow. Watch the gold medal curling from the Duluth Curling Club. The Corey and Corey crew are in the finals. So if you can play hooky, if you're working, go for it. With that, I want to thank everybody for getting on. Great questions. Well, again, maybe see you in a month, and we'll let everybody know with the agenda if we do decide to hold it here in a month and who will be speaking. Anyways, thank you all, and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.